Oh, Justin, it's the final show of 2024. What a year it's been, full of ups and downs. But the question is, Justin, that I wanted to kick off this episode with. What is your favourite moment of 2024 from this glorious league we love to call the Championship?
I think our reaction to Dan James hitting the crossbar live at Wembley was quite a special one for Leeds. That was a moment and a half, wasn't it? That was. It just felt the game could have changed in that.
In the playoff final.
In the playoff final, yeah. The tide of the game could have changed in that millisecond in Leeds' favour, and they were just inches away. And what a strike it would have been as well. Yeah, just an incredible moment. Yeah, one of the faves. Yeah.
Yeah, that was. Just Wembley in general, because that was a great day out for you and I, wasn't it, Justin? But that moment in particular is the one that's going to stay with me, even though it might not stay with everyone else. But just the sheer shock factor for me was a big one. I'll tell you what, Quadro Bar's incident from the other day has got to be up there. A late addition, a late contender for moment of the season. Otherwise, one that really stands out for me is that Birmingham City fan scoring from 30 yards out. They got relegated.
What a strike! Yeah, the goal of the season that was, wasn't it? It's incredible.
It's just imagine running on the pitch after something like that, getting relegated. Of course, it's not even a good reason to be running on the pitch, but the odds of you scoring that goal is just ridiculous, Justin.
Yeah, it was the pureness of the strike as well was outstanding. It's not necessarily the odds of him scoring, just how well he hit that shot through a crowd of people. And we're not talking a back four, we're talking several hundred people.
We're not talking about a wall, are we? We're not talking about a 5-man wall. We're talking about basically a 50-man wall of people all in the way. And he's just managed to nail it, top bins from that distance. Beautiful. It's absolutely sensational. One of my favourite moments of all time covering this bloody stupid league. Anyway, let's talk about the last round of games from the Championship in 2024. And we'll begin with Stoke, who won in their first game since sacking Narcís Pelach. They beat Sunderland 1-0 thanks to a 91st minute winner from Tom Cannon. Only Stoke's fourth win in 20 games, which gives you a good idea of why Narcís Pelach was sacked a couple of days ago. Ryan Shawcross was in charge for this one, Justin, and we were just saying with Chris Brunt at West Brom, feels right having a club legend in charge on a caretaker basis anyway. And what a result for him.
Yeah, it was a brilliant result and a good performance. Look, it wasn't a perfect performance because, Sunderland had a lot of chances, but I felt there was a bravery there with Stoke. It was a good performance. It was a brave performance. They made their own look, and I think, with the last minute winner, it's going to breathe confidence into the team. They went after Sunderland. They did. It was ballsy. There wasn't overthinking with the game plan. It was just get after him. It was brave, and I really like that.
Yeah. Ryan Shawcross looking up to the sky saying, "Am I doing a good job, boss?" And Tony Pulis looking down at him saying, "You are, son." And you got John Walters as the sporting director.
Weird,
incredible season. It's really weird. But yeah, both teams had a fair few chances. Sunderland probably had the better ones. Eliza Mayenda missed a sitter towards the end of this one. They also hit the post twice. Maybe should have had a penalty as well. Maybe not for the first time in recent weeks. Sunderland not taking their chances, and we'll probably see this as points dropped. Stoke, though, looked like they had a lot more about them, considering they really did just roll over for Leeds on Boxing Day. It was a night and day performance, really, wasn't it, Justin? It shows that this Stoke team do have more about them than what we were seeing under towards the end of the Pelach reign.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of individuals who just, impressed me. I mean, Waterberger's been really poor all season, but it just felt like the shackles were released off of him. And I think what it does demonstrate that there is a lot of quality in this squad. They've come up against Sunderland, who, for large portions of this season, have been looking at the title, have been looking at automatic promotion as an objective. It might be slipping away from them at the moment, but they're up there. They're a quality team, and they've displayed that. But as I say, Stoke displayed a lot of bravery in how they approached the game, and I don't think we saw that under Narcís Pelach. And I think when you've got a manager who is just overcautious like he was, and overcomplicated things like he was, because I think when you don't have a clear philosophy and we have no idea what style of football you're trying to play, you're just trying to keep things tight, you're trying to be patient in possession, no idea what you're getting out of that team. Ryan Shawcross just went, get after him. Go and get after Sunderland. And I think that simplicity of that was, real positive. And I think that all that did was demonstrate, it told us that this team has quality in it.
Let's talk about the Pelach sacking. On Friday night, he was dismissed by Stoke after just 3 months in charge. In a statement, sporting director John Walters said, with the way results and performances have been in recent weeks, we have to accept with hindsight that he has proved not to be the right fit for this club at this time. I take full responsibility for that, and I'm absolutely determined that we will now make the right choice to take us forward. And Justin, we've spoken a lot in recent weeks about how this wasn't working, and we essentially spent Friday's episode talking like he was gone. So we don't need to cover old ground there about why it wasn't working. What we can say is John Walters has put himself under a massive amount of pressure with this whole debacle, hasn't he?
Yeah, massive. I think firstly, on a positive note, he's taken responsibility and accountability for the appointment. It was a poor choice. Hindsight will tell us it's a poor choice, but I think that's an easy judgment to draw on. It was an appointment I wasn't sure about, given it's taken quite a while for him to get a job full time as a manager, as a head coach, and then you're walking into a fire-like club like Stoke. It was never going to work. Pelach is a talented coach, but it's different being a manager. You don't have the responsibility of managing individuals as a coach. You just get given your objective by a manager or a head coach, and you coach them. Whereas manager, there's different personalities you got to deal with. There's recruitment. There's everything, and I think that's why it was never going to work. And I think John Walters taking responsibility for it is a positive. But they are a Cinderella type club. They need the perfect manager. Stoke City. They need the perfect manager, and it's very hard to see what direction they're going to go in. It's exhausting as well, because they've tried every type of manager. They tried young, they tried experienced, they tried direct, they tried organised, they tried a little bit more sort of progressive. None of them have worked. Why is that? They're not the problem. Stoke is. Simple.
Well, yeah, we'll talk about that shortly, Justin. But Walters, when he sacked Steven Schumacher 5 games into the season, and he wasn't doing terribly in the first 5 games of the season, you've got to get that next appointment right, because it's a bold call to do that, and you just simply have to make sure that the next person who comes in is an improvement on the one you've just got rid of. And I don't really know what Walters saw in Pelach to justify that decision, really. And nothing we've seen since has proven that to be the case. I mean, Pelach, very highly rated coach. Sometimes a coach comes in, gets given his first job in management, and it works brilliantly. You look at Kieran McKenna, you look at Danny Rule, you look at various different examples, but this is one of those where it's just not worked out, and that's why John Walters has been getting plenty of calls recently from Stoke fans for him to go, and he's got to get this next one right, otherwise he's not going to be held in good graces by Stoke fans going forwards. But the big question is, Justin, who do they get in next? Mark Robbins, Steve Cooper, Ryan Lowe, they've all been linked. I mean, there's a question about would any of them actually want the job, but what avenue do Stoke go down next?
Well, this is it. This is the difficult decision that Stoke have got to make. What's the point in talking about other managers with Stoke City when the football structure is the problem? It's exhausting. How exhausted are the fans? Can they get excited about a new appointment? This circle they continue to go in is vicious. It's tiring. It's demoralising for a fan. So for me, I don't think it matters who comes in as Stoke, because whatever does happen is the same thing. It's the same thing until the club changes at the top, until they make real progressive change and put the right people in charge. Because John Walters has displayed his inexperience, his hot-headedness, and it's clearly not right until they get someone in, a chairman with experience of running a football club, an operator like a technical director who can come in and run the football side of things. Nothing's going to work at Stoke. They need people in charge, because the Coates family, for all their money, for all their goodwill of investing in the club, again, are not good owners in the sense where they cannot take a football club in the right direction. So, is there any point in talking about a football manager coming in and doing a good job and doing a job? I don't think there is at the moment, because Stoke's the problem.
Well, I think it's hard to deny that when they've gone through several different players, several different managers over recent years, and as you were saying the other day, not broke into the top half. I mean, they have tried changing things at the top because John Walters has only been in the jobs for 9-10 months now. He's not been in there very long and is already facing calls for him to go. So he won't be the first person they've tried basically running the football side of things and not working out either. But there just seems to be a problem with Stoke as a whole at this stage, no matter who you get in. I have spent a lot of time in the past couple of days trying to figure out who Stoke should get in next. And do you know what my verdict is, Justin? I haven't got a fucking clue who they should get in next. I genuinely don't know what they do now, because I fully thought that the next thing that they should try was take a gamble on a coach who's not had a job in first team management at this level before. And they tried that with Narcís Pelach and it's not worked either. So you look at them being linked with the likes of Robbins, Steve Cooper. Why would any of them want to go in at Stoke? Because you look at every manager who's gone in there, some bloody good managers have gone in there over the years now, and all of them have just fallen victim of stokiness. Mm-hmm. So you've got to put the barrier lower and lower when each time it comes to selecting a new manager, and everyone who comes in there will just be thinking, am I just going to be the next guy who goes in and gets spat out the other end?
Well, yeah, I don't think it's as simple as that, but it is a football club. Well, no, but for me, it's a football club that's becoming unattractive because of this inability to keep going. I think Michael O'Neill was a good appointment, but things stopped working out, and he was shackled by his budget, wasn't he? And I think if he had the budget that Alex Neil and Stephen Schumacher and Narcís Pelach have been able to work with, i.e. within the squad, then I think he would have found some success. But this football club is so hard to put a finger on it, because they have the ingredients of a football club that should work. They're well invested in. They have a good budget, and it's a big football club with a passionate fan base. But it doesn't work. It doesn't work, and the reason why it doesn't work, as I say, I think there's inexperienced leadership at the very top of the club, and I think when that is the case, you put the wrong people in charge of the things that you need the right people in charge of, i.e. recruitment, i.e. running the club, like John Walters and everybody else. It's a shambles. It's a shambles. It always has been. It's never changed, and it never will change unless either the ownership changes or they do wake up, or they get relegated to League One, for example. That's the only time I think there will be real positive change at the football club.
Time appears to be running out for Wayne Rooney after yet another loss for Plymouth Argyle, this time a 2-0 defeat away at Oxford. It's now 1 point from Plymouth's last 7 games, still just 2 points away from home all season. And not for the first time, Plymouth fans not happy with what they've seen here, Justin Peach.
I don't think that's the worst statistic, Ryan. They've conceded 40 goals since October 1st. That's what come on, that's my head's blown at that. Absolutely blown at that. There isn't one statistic that will paper over it for Wayne Rooney. This was a big game because it was against a relegation rival with a new manager. You could have really put yourself in a position where you make a statement by getting a result, maybe even just putting in a performance. We didn't get any of that. As I say, that previous episode, that Mike Phelan honeymoon lasted 2 games. And it's just nothing's working. I think the quality of the players isn't there. It needs someone with more experience to come in and manage the situation at Plymouth, because Wayne Rooney's out of his depth. He's out of his depth. He's been out of his depth for a long time. I wanted to see this work, but there's a romance of a player of world class quality. I grew up watching being a successful manager. It's not. It's not. It doesn't mean that you become a good manager at all. And we're seeing this. We're being showed this on a weekly basis. It's a terrible situation at Plymouth.
With all due respect to Oxford, it's not like Plymouth are going to Ellen Road or Bramall Lane here. They're going to Oxford, aren't they? And
exactly.
It's a newly promoted team who've been struggling just as much as them before Christmas. It's essentially a relegation 6-pointer, and Plymouth have been beaten fairly comfortably. Just 2 shots on target all game in this one. So if they're not putting in more of a fight in a game like this, what hope have they got? And I mean, how can you defend Wayne Rooney really at this stage? It's getting to the stage now where if Plymouth don't make a decision, Justin, they're in serious danger of being cut adrift at the bottom of the table, aren't they?
Yeah, I think they're gone, to be honest. It's hard to see this being fixed because of the inactiveness of the board. A team cannot be this leaky and be fixed instantaneously. The club's decision making has been pretty catastrophic since Steven Schumacher left. Obviously, Ian Foster came in last season, didn't work out. He went very quickly. Then they went for Wayne Rooney. The summer recruitment was really poor. It doesn't feel like an attractive proposition anymore, Plymouth. It just doesn't, unless you go for someone who's a washed up manager needing to bring themselves back into the light, or a young coach looking for their first opportunity. It just isn't an attractive proposition as a football club, and it's a shame. And as I say, that catastrophic decision making since Steven Schumacher left has led the club into this position. And as for Wayne Rooney, he's one of the worst managers, if not the worst manager I think we've seen at this level. And that is a statement.
That is a statement, because we've seen some bloody stinkers over the years. Yeah, I mean, when you're on course to concede over 100 goals in a season, it's not a good start, is it? And it's just getting to the stage now where you're like, why are Plymouth holding out on making a decision on Rooney? Because it should have been done a few weeks ago now, if you ask me, because even when the results weren't too bad, they clearly weren't playing very well. And now they're not playing very well and they're not getting the results either. So what is holding them back? Because they must clearly see that they're getting relegated as things stand. And unless they make a drastic call, I mean, they've got January around the corner as well. That's their last real hope of managing to salvage this season, really, for them. But they're still holding off for whatever reason. I just don't really understand it. So yeah. It's a pretty dire set of affairs now for Plymouth, and the fans are completely against Wayne Rooney at this stage. So if he doesn't go in the next few days, then I don't really understand what they're trying to do with Plymouth's chances of staying up. I mean, I suppose a good example of what Plymouth should be looking to do is the team they've lost to here, Oxford, getting an experienced head in Gary Rowett, and we've seen an instant improvement, Justin.
We have seen an instant improvement. It's been quite positive, actually. It's just a case of Gary Rowett simplifying things. They've been functional, Oxford. There have been elements of being progressive in possession and not the boring football many would accuse Gary Rowett of. There were long periods of control in this game against Plymouth, and there was purpose. There was purpose going forwards, but in previous games, there haven't really been many examples of that. I think the individuals at the club as well, they're getting the message. Will Vaulks has been brilliant since Gary Rowett's come in. I know it's only been a couple of games, but he's been brilliant in those 2 games. Premslaw Pelach has been fantastic as well. These are really good signs. Mark Harris is another example of a player really benefiting from Gary Rowett's introduction at Oxford. And I think, while many would say, the run of fixtures have been quite kind for Oxford, they've beaten 2 teams that are down in the bottom 3 with them and beaten them comfortably. I know it was a 3-2 game against Cardiff, but until the last 10 minutes, they were in complete control of that game. So it was a relatively comfortable win. So that's a huge, huge positive. And I think, when a new manager comes in of a relegation threatened side, getting good results, getting good performances in very early on is so, so important. And as I say, I think this is the best example you can give of an ownership taking the right course of action at the right time.
Yeah. Oxford have got 2 wins in 2 relegation 6-pointers, Justin. So essentially 12 points. You know what I mean? So it's a fantastic turnaround for Gary Rowett, and you're absolutely right. It's not like he's reinventing the wheel here. He's just about doing the basics better, and that is exactly what he's got Oxford doing. And it'll be interesting to see how they get on when they're coming up against opposition who are of a better standard than Plymouth and Cardiff, but you've got to say there's been a drastic improvement already, and that's what happens when you get in and someone like Gary Rowett, someone who maybe firefighter's a bit unfair, but he's certainly putting out a lot of flames at Oxford right now, because there were a fair few flames when he initially came in, but they've all been extinguished. And now, well, not all been extinguished, but he's certainly dampening down the flames anyway. And they're looking like a much more convincing contender for staying up, because at one point, not too long ago, just before Christmas, it looked like they were in a pretty dire situation, along with a couple of other teams as well, Plymouth being one of them. So, yeah, got to take your hat off to Gary Rowett. He's done a cracking job in the short time that he has been there. Let's go to a surprise result. Watford have been unbeaten at Vicarage Road since March, and that run ended to Cardiff City, of all teams. 2-1 it finished. Yeah, I genuinely think this might be one of the surprise results of the season, Justin. I mentioned that I'm in a last man standing group chat a few times on this show now, and I nearly chose Watford because I thought the results have been great at home. Cardiff have looked completely hopeless recently. So, with that being said, I never saw this coming in a million years.
No, you are absolutely right. It is the surprise result of the season. When you look at the balance of play, Watford having 73% of the ball, not really creating too much, Cardiff creating two big chances and scoring with them both. It's one of those, definitely. I mean, it was a good performance from Cardiff, but a surprise result nonetheless. And, unbeaten in 17 games at home for Watford, coming up against a Cardiff team who have been utter dross in recent weeks, conceded 3 in the last game against Oxford away from home. Good grief, this is a huge result for Cardiff, but also just generally for the Championship. I always think, I was saying it in the previous show, embrace the chaos of this period of games, because you get a lot of games in a short space of time. It just brings about an element of unpredictability with them, and this was the key example of that, because Watford have been going in the right direction, staying in around the top 6, and Cardiff have plummeted to the bottom 3. This emphasising how much of a surprise this was. It was a big one.
Yeah, it was definitely a shock. I know it's easy to say this in hindsight, but I actually don't think Watford have perhaps been as good at Vicarage Road as their results suggest. They've scored a few late goals. The underlying data hasn't always been on their side. So you could make a fair argument that they were overdue a defeat at home, even though the results have been so incredible, to give Tom Cleverley plenty of credit in that regard. But having said that, as I was alluding to, I didn't expect their overdue defeat at home to come against Cardiff City, because they have been so very bad, but they definitely deserved something from this. They didn't have much of the ball, as you were just alluding to then, Justin, but defended really well. Jack Hannick didn't really have a lot to do in the Cardiff goals. So I think there were loads of positives to take from this, from a Cardiff City perspective. Most importantly for the players, a lot of confidence. And most importantly for Omar Ritza, a bit more precious time.
Yeah, we might see a different kind of Instagram post now he's got a win under his belt for the first time.
Might actually see a smile on there, Justin.
Yeah, we might see a smile. We might see some less of the moody graphics he's been putting on. But look, it's their first away win of the season. How big is that? Coming sort of halfway through the campaign, away at a team who haven't lost at home in 17 since March. Tom Cleverley's first home defeat, etc. It's monumental the impact this can have on the team. And I don't want to criticise Cardiff too much, but building on this result, performance, more importantly, is imperative. The discipline, the concentration within the game. And say Watford having a large portion of the ball throughout the entire game, being switched on, so important. Scored the second goal against the momentum of the game as well. Keane Ashford's come in, he's been brilliant. There's a lot of things that Cardiff have to build on. Winning this game is important, the 3 points are important, but if you don't start to generate that form of momentum, it's pointless, especially this time of year. It's so pointless. So you cannot overstate how much of a positive this one is for Omar Ritza and the club, because the fans have been through it. They've been through it, and getting 3 points on the other side of Christmas, last game of the year, is always a positive.
Yeah, they just need to make sure it's not a flash in the pan, don't
they?
Because this is a shock result, and sometimes you do just get these kind of anomaly kind of results. And with Ritza, he looked like he was on his last legs, really, didn't he, as Cardiff manager? So this one has really come out of nowhere. And they just need to make sure that they build upon it. They've got Coventry at home on New Year's Day, which is an interesting one. And then Middlesbrough away after that. So a couple of tricky games coming up, but Reese will definitely look at this and say, this is what we can do when we're up against it. Let's make sure that we replicate that in the next couple of games. Justin, let's take a quick break. After that, we'll talk about Sheffield United drawing with West Brom and Leeds. 5 wins from 6 for them. Welcome back to the Second Tier podcast, and it's now time for us to reveal the winner of our latest edition of Jameson's Weekend Hero, because every single week we're asking you to nominate a fellow Championship fan that you believe deserves recognition. It could be someone who drove you to a recent away day, or it could be a friend or relative who got you into supporting your club in the first place. Whatever it is, we want to find out. So to nominate your Jameson Weekend Hero from this weekend, send us a voice note now on WhatsApp explaining your nomination. The number is in the show notes, and of course, if we pick you, you'll win a bottle of Jameson to share with your winner. But on to this week's nomination, the final nomination of 2024, Justin Peach. We've got this message from Jack, who wanted to nominate Jem.
Hi, my name's Jack, and I'm nominating my uncle Jem as this week's Weekend Hero. He's a Leeds United fan. He's proper Leeds, born and bred, and he's always watched the games with his mate Pete and a few others. And the thing about Jem, he's not online at all. He doesn't have a smartphone, but he still meets up with his mates to go to watch the games, talk about the games, and it's really part of his social network. So football is kind of what brings them together in like the purest way. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Jem, Leeds fan, and cheers, Jem. Hopefully see you soon.
If he doesn't use online at all, Justin, does that mean he has any awareness of this podcast?
He's probably completely unaware of this podcast, and what a great shame that is, because Leeds are top, and we're singing their praises. And Jem's missing out on all of this.
Yeah. No, it would be physically impossible for him to listen to this podcast, wouldn't it? But that's absolutely fine, Jem. You do you, mate. Because as long as you're, celebrating Leeds being top of the league, then he's having a nice time, isn't he, Justin?
It's important. What I really found quite positive about that is like his friends, they just meet up. I assume they don't call each other beforehand. They just meet at a place.
They don't use a smartphone, do they?
They don't use a smartphone. Yeah, they're not online. They just go and meet up and
send a telegram.
It's amazing. You laugh, but it's lovely. That is nice.
Yeah. Oh, I tell you what, I'd love to live that life if I could. Just
exactly.
Throw my phone into a river and not have to look at Twitter and whatever Elon Musk is harping on about nowadays.
How it used to be.
I'm jealous of Jem, to be quite honest. But let's raise a glass of Jameson, ginger and lime to Jem. Oh dear, what's happening here? Justin and I just having a quick swig as we toast Jem and his honourable life. And the life I wish I was living. Oh, yeah. Anyway, remember, you can nominate your Jameson Weekend Hero right now by sending us a voice note on WhatsApp. The number is in the show notes. So just 60 seconds explaining your nomination, and you'll be in with a chance of winning a bottle of Jameson. You must be over 18 to enter, UK only, and T's and C's apply. Let's go back onto some of the action from across the weekend, Justin. Sheffield United have gone from 9 straight wins at Bramall Lane to winless in 2. It's after drawing 1-1 with West Brom. Sheffield United left frustrated at home once again, Justin.
Yeah, I think frustration is the right word here, because I thought Blades certainly had the better chances. West Brom had to really battle to come away with something from this. I thought the Colin Grant goal was brilliant, but I think the way Sheffield United got in behind a couple of times, obviously Ryan Bruce had a big chance at the end of the game. There are probably 2 ways of looking at it. Yes, it's frustrating. Yes, you're now winless in 2 and maybe losing ground on that title race. But also Sheffield United are stretched. They really are. They had to dig in. They still performed relatively well for my money as well. Just didn't have that quality to see it through. Had a lot of youngsters, being used, for example, a lot of, you have to look at the bench, Louis Marsh, Ryan Wan, Sam Collikin, Billy Blacker. They're down to bare bones, Sheffield United, and they need January more than most if they're going to fulfil that promotion goal, and I think we saw that with this game.
Yeah, well, West Brom really took the game to them, considering Sheffield United have been so dominant at home this season, I wouldn't have blamed West Brom if they played for a draw, but they definitely weren't doing that here. They're having a good go and thoroughly deserved at least a point. They were a bit lucky with their equaliser after it cannoned off Tom Fellows' arse and fell straight to Colin Grant's feet. But they were good value for the draw, and Chris Brunt should be very happy with his side. Of course, he's in caretaker charge there. And I don't think Chris Wilder should be disappointed either, Justin, because everything you said there absolutely true. They didn't play badly at all. But as mentioned, they've gone from 9 wins at home to winless in 2. Does feel like they've dropped a level, doesn't it? And as you mentioned, injuries are obviously going to play a big part in that. But it does feel like they are not at the same level that we saw this time last month, for example.
Yes and no. I think it purely for me, it comes down to player availability. I don't think they've dropped a level. I think they're playing at their maximum still, but with the quality of the players that they've got. Because I think on another day, they've come away with a fairly convincing win against West Brom. They got the ball into good areas. And I think if Ryan Brewster had scored more than one goal in the last 2 years, he'd have put that chance away at the end. You know, and I do say that in jest, but as I say, I think if there's more quality available for Chris Wilder, there's 3 points on the table there. So I don't think they've dropped off considerably. I just think there's a quality gap that's now sort of developed itself within the group, because he's having to rely on a lot of youngsters, a lot of players there that are very much playing to their maximum because of having to play a lot of games because of that squad depth being a problem. Squad is stretched, simple as that for me. I don't think it's a huge thing to be concerned about. They just need to get to January, start to identify players to bring in and get them in. There are positive. I think there are more positives to take out of that than there are negatives for me.
Yeah, I think that's completely fair, Justin. I think they're one of many clubs who are in the Championship right now looking at January thinking we need a refresh in the next transfer window. With the new owners coming in, you'd be very surprised if that didn't happen. Speaking of injuries, though, Justin, you have mentioned that they have had a few injuries. Sheffield United defender Harry Souttar set to miss the rest of the season with an Achilles injury. What a blow for the Blades that is. Yeah,
talk about awful luck. Harry Souttar. It's really disappointing, really sad. Obviously he had that long-term knee injury. His move to Leicester didn't really work out, and it felt like he found his best form again at Bramall Lane. And he's been playing in a pair as well. He's been playing in a back four rather than a back three. Obviously, quite a lot of the time we're used to seeing Harry Souttar in the middle of a back three, but he's been playing in as a centre back pairing rather than in a back three. And he's been really, really good. Something we've not seen before. So yeah, it's really sad. I think it just emphasises the necessity for Sheffield United to dip into the market in January, because his loss is going to be massive. They were already relatively threadbare at centre half. Now Jack Robinson's having to step in. I don't think they have any senior backup, which is a big, big problem.
Yeah, well, he's probably been one of the best centre halves in the division so far, Souttar. Because Sheffield United have had a fantastic defensive record, and one of the reasons for that has been the form of Harry Souttar. And you're absolutely right, Justin. His amount of luck he's had in recent years is really sad, because he's a top player. Anyone who's a long-term listener of this podcast will know I'm a big Harry Souttar fan.
He's a quarterback.
He basically was a quarterback back in his Stoke days. This season, he's been reliving those Stoke days once again, because it's been some of his best form that he's seen in a long time. But as you mentioned, 2 serious injuries now, which have kept him out for several months, at least 6 months, in the space of a few years. And as you mentioned, that Leicester move didn't work out for him. So it's really, really unfortunate for him. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see who Sheffield United get in to replace him in January, because they essentially have to replace him now. But yeah, that's one of a number of areas where they've got to look to strengthen now in the next month. Quick word on West Brom, Justin, because they of course are still looking for a new manager. They've had a few names linked with them in the past couple of days. Johnny Heitinga is one. Mark Robbins, Luke Williams at Swansea as well. They've all been linked. I like the Heitinga link. Proper Barclaysman right there, isn't he? Any of them take your interest, Justin?
I mean, Johnny Heitinga being one, he was obviously got a good playing background, and from a coaching perspective, he's spending time with Arne Slot, which is obviously he's having a huge impact on Liverpool in the Premier League. And I get the feeling that he's going to be a philosophy manager which is good. Luke Williams is another one. I think he's quashed the rumours quite quickly actually, which is good, but obviously disappointing for West Brom. But again, he's a philosophy manager. He wants to play possession football. So I think with those links, there's probably some substance there that West Brom are looking down one certain direction, aren't they? They want someone to come in. They want to play a possession style of play. They want to develop young players, which is what I think Johnny Hartinger and Nick Williams are the boxes they're going to tick. Mark Robbins is going to get linked with every single job. So it's really hard to take into whether or not that's a genuine link or not. So yeah, I think the links for me are very, very positive. There's going to be a positive brand of football going to be played, which is nice. It's good. It's all ticks.
Yeah, the Heitinger link I find really, really exciting because, as you're alluding to, Justin, he's Liverpool's assistant coach under Arne Slot, and obviously they're doing fantastic. So he's clearly playing a big role there. But that, I think, would just be such a thrilling appointment. You know, it's going down the route of, you know, some of the great managers that we've seen in recent years being a coach and then going into management. I know he had a fleeting spell at Ajax last year, but I think that would be really, really interesting and would show that a real statement of intent from West Brom if they were to get him in. But it'll be really fascinating to see who West Brom do get in because, of course, with the new ownership, it's basically a new era, and this would really signify that new era. Coming after a great manager like Carlos Corberán is going to be really, really tough. But the managers who they have been linked with all seem pretty positive. So it's going to be a really, really fascinating one to see who West Brom do approach over the coming days. Leeds have now won 5 of their last 6 games after a 1-0 win away at Derby County. Brendan Aronson with the goal. I don't think Leeds were great again here, Justin, but they got the job done eventually.
I find you sometimes too harsh on Leeds. I really do. I thought they were good. I thought they were good enough for the 3 points.
It's because the standards are high with Leeds, aren't they, Justin?
They are.
They've got to be high because, you know, look at all the backing that they've got to win the league this season. So the fact that they're playing, the fact that they've got 5 wins in 6, and I haven't come away from many games there thinking, bloody hell, Leeds were great. That's why I say, don't think they were great again.
Yeah, you have high standards. You're hard to impress. We all live longing to make sure that you are approval. You're approving of what we do, and fair enough, fair enough. But I think things are improving. The away form needs to improve. That's back-to-back away wins now for Leeds. It's back-to-back clean sheets as well. And I thought the performance against Derby should have yielded more than 1 goal. Zetterstrom had to make several big saves. I thought the timing of their substitutions in this game was spot on. They caught Derby at a time where Derby were looking exhausted. They changed their front 3, and it just put the wind back in their sails. It was a very well managed game. I thought Derby was spirited, but Leeds had to break down a stubborn team, and they did it eventually with a beautiful team goal. And I sit there having witnessed it firsthand. As a Derby fan, it was. I thought it was a good performance from Leeds.
Okay. I thought Derby were the better side for large parts of this game. They defended really well for the most part, restricted Leeds to very little, and then just as Derby were beginning to put Leeds under a bit of pressure, Leeds missed a couple of great chances, and then that beautiful team goal opened Derby up, and they punished them when the chance came. I think a big difference was the substitutes, really. I mean, you look at who Leeds brought on compared to who Derby brought on. Leeds brought on the likes of Manor Solomon, Dan James, Joel Pirro. Derby brought on Tom Barclays and James Collins, and 2 young lads who have only played a handful of games at senior level. That's a great example in the difference of the strength in depth that the top teams in this division have compared to plenty of other teams like Derby County, and that's something I think Derby definitely need to look at improving in January, just to reinforce their position in the second half of the season. But look, it's a huge result for Leeds. They were the only team in the top 8 to win in this round of games. That is massive, massive for Leeds United, isn't it? So, and it's got to be said, the other big thing that was holding Leeds back was their away results, because they had won just 1 in 7 on their travels, but it is now back-to-back victories. Were they amazing in those 2 victories? Not for me, but that doesn't matter as long as they're getting the wins, Justin, because consistency, as we keep saying on this show, is the thing that's going to get you automatically promoted.
Yeah, consistency is important, but also that attitude when things aren't quite going their way. There was a time where Leeds were getting very frustrated, giving away a lot of fouls in and around their box, giving Derby the opportunity to create chances. Only happened for about 5-10 minutes, and then composure was regained very, very quickly. Substitutes came into the game, and the momentum shifted back into Leeds' favour. And I think that mentality was really, really on show in this one. We've probably not seen it enough. You saw it with the celebrations. Yeah, Meslier and Joe Rodon, I think it was, going to celebrate with the Leeds fans, and you got the entire team celebrating Brendan Harrison on the other side of the corner, who obviously scored that goal. It was a huge result and a huge performance for Leeds, because, as I say, we've praised Sheffield United for their mentality in games, for switching on when things aren't going their way and grinding out results. I think Leeds did that here. And I think that's why I think the performance was good, because they didn't let those frustrations get the better of them.
Yeah, it is rather funny with Leeds, isn't it? Because they are top of the league at this stage, the halfway stage, and I still don't think they've really hit top gear yet. Because I can't recall too many games this season where I've looked at Leeds United and thought, wow, oh wow. But here they are, and they've been the best team in the league so far. It's strange, but the thing that makes it even stranger is, underlying data-wise, they've been by far the best team in the league so far. So have they actually been as unimpressive, for lack of a better term, as the eye test says? I don't really know. It's one of those strange situations with Leeds. I think shot-wise, they've been also one of the best teams the Championship has ever seen in terms of shots faced compared to shots taken themselves. So, yeah, everything points to Leeds going on to fulfil the pre-season expectations that a lot of people had of them winning the league this season. And if they've got another gear to go, then they could end up blitzing the league, really. So it's going to be interesting to see how that goes. Of course, January coming up. It wouldn't surprise me if they were to go out and be active in the window as well. So, yeah, it's Leeds, considering they've got to this stage, having played how they have played, it's interesting to say the least, but it looks like they are well on course for automatic promotion as things stand. Let's round off the promotion-chasing sides with a final Championship game of 2024, Justin. It was Middlesbrough v Burnley, finished 0-0 last night. A pretty good 0-0, actually, I thought. Both teams had plenty of chances. Probably Burnley who'll be regretting theirs the most, though, won't they?
Yeah, Josh Brown had that great chance, didn't he? Just after the hour. That was the golden chance of the game. Del Fry was there to sweep it up. Yeah, there was a lot of, not a lot of goal mouth action really in this one. It was a lot of sort of testing each other. And obviously when the big moment came for Burnley, didn't quite grab it. I don't think it's a poor result from a Burnley perspective. I think a 0-0 away against a team who do create a lot of chances. Very, very good. Very, very good. They limited Borough, but I thought Borough also limited Burnley as well. So it's just one of those games where neither side really went for it, if you like. There was a couple of big chances that Burnley could have put away, but yeah, maybe a couple of points dropped from Scott Parker's perspective, but yeah, clean sheet away from home, you always take them.
Yeah, considering Josh Brownhill's goal-scoring form this season, you'd 100% be backing him to put those two chances away. Despite that, though, I thought Middlesbrough defended pretty well. Their leaky defence has been a hot topic of conversation between you and I on here, Justin, and bar those two chances, they were pretty good. And Middlesbrough had a decent couple of opportunities themselves, including a bizarre one where James Trafford got caught in possession 25 yards out. It was like he was playing a game of FIFA and his controller ran out of batteries. It was it was a very strange moment. Michael Carrick said afterwards that it was a good step forward for his team, which I think is fair, Justin.
Yeah, completely agree. It's been obviously game control has been a huge issue, hasn't it? With if you just go back over the last two games, conceding 3 against Plymouth, conceding 3 against Sheffield Wednesday, and just completely losing their arses. And they had to be on it against Burnley, and I think you showed that. Burnley did have a couple of big chances, but you're going to get big chances in these types of games. But the way Middlesbrough reacted didn't let it swamp them, and I think that's a huge thing going forward.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely fair. It's nice for Middlesbrough to go into a game and not be the swashbuckling, all singing, all dancing side going forwards, but then leaking goals at the back. It's nice for that to be a change. It shows that they can keep a clean sheet against a very good side. So they just need to make sure that happens more often, because scoring goals has not been a problem for them this season, has it? By the way, I've seen reports linking Josh Brownhill with a move to Serie A, which feels like one of those transfers you see on FIFA or Football Manager, and you'd go, this doesn't feel very realistic, but here we are. We'll see if that happens. Luton have now lost 9 away games on the bounce, the latest being a 2-1 defeat at Swansea City. Luton did actually take the lead 5 minutes into this one, but what followed after that was one-way traffic for pretty much the entirety of the game. Swansea equalised just before half-time. Luton had a man sent off with 20 minutes to go. Their 5th red card of the season, by the way, which only increased the volume of traffic going against them. And Swansea finally got the winner in the 91st minute and condemned Luton to another pretty shameful defeat, Justin Peach.
Yeah, I think the manner of the defeat, even before the red card, I think just speaks volumes of where Luton are at the moment. Swansea were really good. They were brilliant in possession throughout the game. I don't think the 10 men would have impacted the result. I think the great shame here, from a Swansea perspective, is it took them until the 91st minute to get the winner. They were expansive, they were confident, and Luton didn't really have any answers for that. They were comprehensively beaten. I've not really got anything positive to say about the Luton team. Maybe showed a bit of character after going down to 10 men. But I think they were very lucky that Thomas Kaminski was in form, weren't they? It was a poor performance, another poor performance. And one way you just left, where do they go from here? Because winning against Derby a couple of games ago, things looking good, but the performance again was really poor. There's not been an uptake in performances at all. They just seem to look as poor as they do every single game.
Yeah, well, you're absolutely right. How did Luton hold on to a point for so long? It was crazy, really. Thomas Kaminski was the busiest man in the whole of South Wales. And Swansea also had a pretty blatant penalty turned down. It's just another game where you've come away from it thinking Luton are massively underperforming, and we're almost just accepting this as normal at this stage. Justin, how do we talk about Luton Town without covering the same old ground? Because they're not playing well. They're really not playing well away from home, and they're showing no signs of getting better at home either. I go back to my visit to Kenilworth Road just before Christmas, Justin, where I was chatting to Luton fans, a lot of them saying, we're in a relegation battle. And I was doing you'll be all right, though. But I look at the table, they've been hovering just above the bottom 3 for an awful long time now, and haven't ever climbed away. The highest they've actually been this season is 15th. It's the highest they've been all season. So could they actually be in danger of going down this season, Justin? It sounds like a ridiculous question, but I don't see them climbing away.
Well, I think with Rob Edwards in charge, I wouldn't discount it. They're 4 points above the bottom 3. Can't get results away from home. Tactical setup never changes. It's not a personnel issue for me. They can't keep clean sheets. A lot of the time, they do not feel competitive in games. You look at this one, for example, what was the game plan? Yeah, I know Swansea are a very good in possession-based team, probably one of the best possession-based teams in the division. But the amount of chances they created was just dreadful. It was dreadful. From a Luton perspective, that is. What's the game plan here? It is a shocking state of affairs at Luton. As I say, all the positives that the club has been built on under Nathan Jones, hard work, grittiness, determination, being solid, keeping clean sheets, doesn't exist anymore. It's gone. The mentality of the club's completely changed, and I've said it time and time again. Said it a couple of weeks ago. Said it very recently. Mediocrity is very, very acceptable now at Kenilworth Road, and that's a very dangerous thing for a football club. Very, very dangerous thing.
Yeah, well, when you've got teams below Luton improving and Luton just kind of staying in the same position as always, then I don't think you can rule out relegation, which I know many people will be looking at it and going, Luton are too good to go down. But we've seen plenty of teams in the Championship before who we've thought are too good to go down. And then as time gets on, they just get swamped in. And I don't think Luton can be ruled out from doing that. I mean, you look at the sheer statistics. They've conceded the second most goals in the division so far. Only Plymouth, who have got the worst defensive record at this stage ever in a championship season, have conceded more than Luton at this stage, which is just absolutely mind-blowing. But it's not a surprise. And they probably would have conceded even more if it wasn't for Thomas Kaminski on so many occasions this season. So unless they just, I don't ever want to sound like someone who is calling for a manager to lose his job, but I just cannot see them progressing until they make a decision on Rob Edwards. Because they're clearly not improving under him. And I know we can say, yes, he's done a lot for the club, and it's honourable in a way that Luton are sticking by him, but it's clearly just not working. They just need a refresh, don't they? Otherwise, they are just going to keep lingering, and it could end up really, really costing them in the long term if they don't make a decision sooner rather than later. So it's a very, very strange situation at Luton, but it doesn't seem to be improving, and that's a big, big concern. And the final game we'll discuss, Justin, is Hull City, who have gone from 3 wins all season to 2 wins in 3 after a 1-0 victory away at Blackburn. Ruben Sellers having an instant impact at Hull City, Justin. Are we seeing, wait for it, a Hull City Rubelution?
How long does it take to come up with that one?
Like 2 seconds.
yeah, it shows. But it took you 2 seconds to come up with it and 2 seconds to put it into your script there. Fair enough. But yeah, he's having an instant impact. They're looking more competitive, Hull. It feels like the message is getting through to the players. I know they lost on Boxing Day, but Blackburn are a hard team to play. They had chances in this game, but Hull also had chances in this game. I think if you look at the big chances they were created, it was fairly even. I think that you needed the composure in front of goal, like Ryan Longman had, to win this one. And we saw that Blackburn didn't have it. Hull took advantage of it. And as I say, I think a few weeks ago, they'd have lost this one very, very easily, Hull, but they didn't. They were in the game. They were competitive. And I know Ruben Sellers, I know we can talk about him being an in-possession-based coach, and they're going to play possession football. Blackburn dominated the ball in this game. So Hull had to be patient. They had to buy the time. And as I say, that's where I think Hull are looking more and more solid, more and more rigid, more positive going forward. So yeah, huge impact that Ruben Sellers is having, I think.
Well, they did ride their luck on a few occasions in this game, but considering how miserable a few months it's been for Hull, I think we can let them off with a doing that. To get a win against a side who have been flying so high for much of the season, it's a great effort, and it's a first clean sheet in 127 days. So it's not a bad effort at all from Ruben Sellers' side. And don't get me wrong, there's still a lot of room for improvement and a lot of work to be done to properly stave off relegation. But I think in the short time that he's been there, we've seen a lot of progress with Hull since Sellers has come in, Justin.
Yeah, huge progress. I think you've only got to look at the improvement of individuals. Regan Slater, the balance of the team firstly actually is what's impressing me the most. This 4-3-3 that they're playing. Regan Slater's looking more positive. João Pedro's looking a little bit more convincing in front of goal as well. Mason Burster, I think, has come on a lot in the last couple of games as well, when he's looked pretty hopeless in a fair few performances. And I think, as I say, when you start to see individuals improve, that's where the real impact of a new manager is coming in. We were talking about Gary Rowett earlier on in the show, about his impact, Premzor Pleta being brilliant, etc. The improvement of individuals is where you really start to see the impact of a manager. And I think, we're getting that. And it's not surprising given how volatile I think Tim Walter was at times. I think the players just needed someone who's a little bit kinder, a little bit nicer, maybe a little bit more softly spoken. Ruben Sellers is the man.
Yeah, someone who's a little less mad, I think, helps when Hull City are a bit of somewhat of a basket case themselves. So someone getting into someone like Ruben Sellers, who, as we saw with Reading, has great capability of dealing with basket cases. He's definitely the right man to take Hull going forward. So that's got to be said. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Second Tier podcast. But Patreon subscribers, don't go anywhere, because we've got the extended edition of the weekend show coming up, which we like to call Zamora Time. We'll be talking about Alex Neil's impending appointment at Millwall, back-to-back wins for Bristol City, and Neil Mopay. If you're not a Patreon subscriber, sign up to get Zamora Time in every single weekend show. Head over to patreon.com/Second second tier. Link is in the description of this episode. But, ladies and gents, this has been the final second tier podcast episode of 2024. Thank you for all your support across the year. It is greatly appreciated. It really, really is. You know, it's been another big year for us growing as a podcast. Justin, as we were alluding to earlier, plenty of highs and lows across the season. But I've loved this year. It's been a fantastic year, I think, for us, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been an incredible year. And one that I really am grateful for the listeners because they're why we keep coming back, Ryan. They're why we keep coming back. But, having recorded a show like live at Wembley, how many podcasters have done that? On the back of recording a live show with our sponsor SBK as well, it's just been a wonderful, wonderful year. And the only reason why we do it is because of the championship. That's why we do it. We do it for the listeners and for the championship. We serve the championship.
Yeah. We want to put that, we want to highlight how mad this bloody league is. And I'm glad that you, the listener, have been along for the ride with us across the past 12 months. And just one thing you forgot to mention is the launch of our second tier Patreon as well, which has been fantastic as well. Being able to interact more with the most dedicated of listeners too. So it's been a fantastic year. So thank you so much for your support across the last 12 months. And of course, Happy New Year. We'll see you again in 2025. So this has been the second tier podcast. We'll be back again on Thursday to review all the games from New Year's Day. So we look forward to seeing you then for that. This has been the Second Tier Podcast. I've been Ryan Dilks.
I've been Justin Peach.
And a big thank you for listening.